Welcome aboard. It's Captain G with the Western Alliance Turn 3, January 2026. So before we get to their recapture of the Venezuelan capital, I want to turn to the geopolitical influence role. All of the Western powers put each and every one of their cyber warfare attempts to geopolitical. The US rolled 2 6s, NATO rolled 1. The Eastern Pact had only saved 2 counters, so they committed both to trying to stop the US, and they rolled 2 6s. So the US streak of converting a country every single time was, if not totally stopped, hampered. The NATO influence went towards Central African states, which they successfully converted, and the US ended up rolling a 2 anyway. So even with the 6s, they would not have been able to make the influence. And then in the combat phase, they've recaptured the Victory City in Venezuela, improving their position and putting nukes back on the table if they wanted to do that. They also moved the Operation Torch Force by land into Egypt, and then the ships maneuvered around to transport some troops from Europe down to support the attack, primarily the US armor. From a technology standpoint, the US did hit and got next generation MBTs, so these all rolled at 8, so they overwhelmed the 1 Caliphate Defender. In the Eastern Med, they sank the last of the Caliphate and last of the Eastern Pact naval units outside of the Baltic Sea. They also reconquered the Balkans and Central Europe, putting quite a large force on Russia's doorstep. And no offensive moves, no attacks, no combat roles at all in the Pacific, but it doesn't mean the Chinese went unnoticed as the US builds were for even more LHDs, armor, and infantry, and they moved to the Central Pacific, this large American task force. So the Americans are making their presence felt in the Pacific for want of a Eastern Pact submarine or guided missile cruiser that could strike into that, but there's nothing that they can do, unfortunately. And as Eggman said, not sure what to do with this fleet. He has so many naval units, he has some he doesn't even need. So obviously retaking Venezuela helped the Western Alliance. They're on the doorstep of Israel, Russian homeland, and I suspect, if not North Korea or the Chinese mainland, then certainly Japan, which the Chinese would not be able to strike back. So the window of opportunity for the Eastern Pact is not closed all the way, but it's getting there. The tide has turned. Nuclear option may be back on the table. We'll see. I'm Captain G, out for now.